please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video is the complete breakdown story concerning Mamamax and their return to YouTube. 2024 has not been a good year for the self-confessed hunter of the PDFs. It has not been a good year because everything they did went wrong, and when they had a chance to undo it, they blew it. This video will aptly demonstrate how one can be so full of themselves and simultaneously achieve nothing, accomplish nothing, where others then have to step in. And I don't believe in any of the videos I made this year I featured clips of others like Muta covering this subject with those victims that asked Mamamax to stop. I may well insert those where necessary.
Hello, this one's interesting. Up until this point I had been hearing rumbles of a creator not quite doing what they claimed they were doing, not living up to the standard that they themselves set, giving off the facade of a saviour complex, a god complex, an untouchable complex. If by chance they're under 5'5", also a Napoleon complex. But we had to wait. We had to wait because the patient game is vastly more important. I still didn't know up until today, so the 19th of January, who the creator was beyond the name doing its rounds on Twitter, repeatedly seeing them trending, and people saying that this, and this was happening all at once, and this, and this being many different things, which is why we had to wait. We had to wait because we needed to know for certain which one was the most accurate allegation against the YouTuber Mamamax, who is showing some colours right now. These colours make them look a little bit like a bitch. Bit of sausage, you know? The kind that dishes out, makes assertions, gaslights, and accomplishes nothing at the same time. If you build a reputation off of calling out people, but calling out a certain group of people of the more predatory kind, and not a single one of those individuals ever gets arrested, you provide fake evidence against those aforementioned predatory types. You lie to bolster your credibility, and you farm the victims for Patreon income. Chances are you might be a bit of a grifter. You're not just a sausage, you're a con artist sausage. Those remarks were taken from a tweet from Nick Diorio, who has finally made a return to YouTube with a video on Mamamax, including a leaked call. I'm going to link that down below. I am not going to play it here. That would be very disrespectful to Nick Diorio. You should watch his video. On this channel, we do call out people who make mistakes. We also cover crimes. I have multiple times addressed those that do sting operations. And if there is a conclusion, I cover it. If there isn't, it's a missed opportunity. Because if they're proven to have committed a crime, you would surely think the activism would lead to them doing some time. Turns out, it's 50-50, and the vigilantism part doesn't really yield that much in the way of a positive outcome, which means it can be argued to be ineffective. At time of recording, Mamamax is a YouTube channel with 723,000 subscribers. They have lost, since this has begun, about 33,000. They have been doing quite poorly of late. And to be honest, I don't understand how they managed to get that many subscribers in the first place. Their views are, let's face it, utterly piss poor for the size of their channel. There are a few moments though in June of 2023 and April 2021 where they deleted 10 million views, both times. But their views are horrendous. They as a creator are not the most active. This could be because they make lengthier videos, or because they've streamed a few times on their YouTube channel. To be honest, it's because they've not been active for a long time. They really haven't been. So understandably, as time has progressed, with them doing many different types of documentary videos of, crimes we can't really actually name if I want to get monetized on YouTube, it's understandable they're not going to make as much content because that is their style of content they produce. If you make an entire career out of this genre, of course, your ability to be active is limited, but it's also quite a dark area as a content creator. I don't personally understand how anyone can do it, but then I mentioned inactivity, didn't I? Do I need to pull up Nick Diorio's tweet again? Faked evidence against those who are more predatory. This is a big accusation to levy at any creator. It's why many of us cite our sources. Some now put them within Google Docs and link that instead in a pinned comment under their video or in the description if YouTube don't want to flag it for a change. In this area, it's a lot harder to put that together and for it to stack up to scrutiny because you are dealing with legitimate crime. If it's an ongoing crime, I don't think it should be in video form unless you're putting it together to unlist it and give it to the police as a concise form of documentation. It's a very tricky area to navigate. I make it a point within the halls of injustice only to cover crimes where the person has gone, the perp has gone to prison, because it is a conclusion. I don't want to cover something ongoing in case they're found innocent. I don't want to cover something ongoing in case it has already failed obvious hurdles within the criminal justice system. This is where Mamamax has completely undone any credibility they had and also poisoned the well for other creators in this genre. Of course, that's not the main problem. The main problem is the victims not getting any definitive resolutions and it potentially harming them as they seek to try and get justice for what was done against them, which Mamamax has been found to have exploited and lied to them to, and let's quote the word, help, when in reality, help was entirely for themselves. Especially when lying, because now you have poisoned the well and the police and any other legal official that's involved in any ongoing case has to go out of their way now to try and find the actual fact that you may well have tarnished with nonsense. Anyone else would call that perverting the course of justice. It's what I want to call it anyway, because it does come across as that. It can certainly be interpreted as that. Many creators respected Mamamax. I had heard the name, but again, I don't really frequent these circles of crime because I don't like them. Ongoing cases with little in the way of resolution, I don't want to be a part of. But I do have a Halls of Injustice YouTube channel with all the crime stuff on there if you want to go follow. Many within commentary though, many creators in commentary held Mamamax in high regard, were friends with Mamamax, and they feel like they've been thrown under the bus as well. We'll get to some of that in a moment as well. So Mamamax addressed this in a video called I Place Accountability in My Own Hands. At time of recording, it has 972 upvotes and 11,000 downvotes, 85,000 views, nearly 4,000 comments. With the top comment underneath, now you need concrete evidence as a quote. Yeah bro, you do. Let's go look at this video and see what Mamamax has to say for themselves.
So, I just completed a 30-minute video called Silencing All Survivors that addresses pretty much everything. It addresses criticisms. It addresses my approach. It includes apologies. It includes a call to action on Camden. A little bit of information about everything. Like
this video that Mamamax is referencing is not on their channel. I wonder why. Could it be that that video was a load of bollocks? Or perhaps was missing some vitally important and key information? I'm inclined to believe the former is the more accurate summation of this situation. There's no point starting a video titled I Place Accountability in My Own Hands to then bleat on about how you have covered this already. You are trying to make it seem like you've done your part, but now have to do it again so people understand. It's very patronizing, don't you think? For the sake of what you're about to say next, that might be the most poignant bit of your entire video. But I understand when you make a video you take your time because you want to collect your thoughts and ensure that what you say is not misconstrued in any way. Although I've often found silence itself contains quite important messages. For example, this silence is you saying, I'm full of it. It, missing S and H.
But I showed it to some trusted friends and the survivors. Some people loved it. Some people had a few criticisms, and then some people hated it and told me not to upload it. I've got people telling me just talk about the case and nothing else. I've got people telling me just address the criticisms. I've got people telling me just apologize.
I'll be honest, the first thing you should do is apologize. It has been conclusively proven by Nick Diorio and a few others that you have deceived in a way. And I'll be honest, that deception costs those involved. You fabricated stuff. That, for the sake of integrity, is not allowed. It's not passable. It's not something that can be indulged. It cannot be ignored either, and you cannot be given a pass. You must be held accountable. Those that saw your video were right to offer criticism where it needed to exist. I'm glad some liked it though, because your ego needs that kind of attention.
I feel like I'm being pulled in every which way, and no matter how hard I try, I cannot make everyone happy.
Based on what you've made a career out of, I don't think that's something you've ever wanted to do in the first place.
I'm trying to prioritize the survivors over myself, but then where do I put, like, the general public in that priority list?
I am not the arbiter of what a priority in this context should be. However, I do personally believe your priority is to admit where you were wrong, undo the damage you did, which in turn harms the survivors that you have used in your career.
I feel like I'm in an impossible position where I just can't seem to do the right thing. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I can't make all of you happy. I'm sorry to Charlie for dragging him into a case that is not necessarily his fight.
Here's the problem with investigative journalism on YouTube. Unless you're actually involving the law, the police, all you're doing is drumming up drama. There's no way anyone thinks those that you cover are truly innocent, just to be clear. But when you falsify what you're covering, when you do not present honestly and then hide behind the term conducting a thorough investigation, all you're trying to do is appeal to authority. Fallacies like that don't float with anyone with an IQ over 1.
I'm sorry to my audience who don't even know what the heck is going on. Like, I'm uploading shorts, I'm doing live streams, I'm doing weird ass videos. Just trying to find the remaining survivors of Camden Gerard Davis. That has always been the goal for this awareness campaign.
Here are the Cliff's Notes to the context. Camden Gerard Davis is a cult leader. Essentially, Camden Gerard Davis is not an innocent man. They believe they were a vampire. Mamamax changed their YouTube channel name for a time to God Cult. When the changes were made to the YouTube channel, they linked at the bottom to a YouTuber called Auntie Spencer who had done a 4-hour podcast called You Can't Hurt Me. It is quite lengthy and there's a lot going on. It was poorly promoted on the part of Mamamax, but it exists. I'll link it down below if you want to listen to 4 hours worth. It's quite harrowing stuff and Camden does not look good. And of course the word allegedly has to exist here somewhere. Mamamax did a call to arms, call to action like they've done in the past, calling out YouTube for defending certain PDF files by calling out Moist Critical in a video that was changed. The audio of which sounds like somebody trying to give a Jigsaw-esque I want to play a game. It also, without all the context, which is very strange of Mamamax, came across as really weird. Mamamax was then accused by Lyrics of weaponizing their audience in a call to action.
I guess talk to you because my main critique for you, I guess, is that in your most recent video where it was a direct call to action, like calling out Moist Critical, it came across as really manipulative, and that you were kind of, I guess, weaponizing your audience in a sense to then kind of get them to be forced to respond to you.
But also begging the crap out of Charlie to get Moist Critical involved by info dumping literally everything they had and using language that can be considered a form of professionalism and guilt trip. Now that first interaction didn't go down very well. It didn't go down very well because I don't think Lyrics was as prepared as they could have been. So they came back and they had everything prepared for an electric boogaloo.
I wanted to ask because after our call, you did something I found was pretty egregious, where you started to direct your chat to tell them to go reach out to the mom and to the brother to find out information about Camden. Is that that's true, right?
I guess so.
I think that sets a horrible standard because, to my knowledge, you don't have any proof that they're even involved, right? You can't prove either of that, correct?
Correct.
And I think if you involve them, you're just, even like you're involving them, you're getting them harassment, you're directing your whole audience to them, where like you know what's gonna happen, like you know the implication that comes there. You're trying to call out this guy for being a pedophile, and you're sending thousands of people to harass them. I think that sets a horrible standard when it's someone that you can't even prove is guilty.
You're talking about Camden.
No, I'm talking about the mother and brother being culpable. You can't prove that they're culpable to blame. They're just family members to the guy. So why did they have to get It's like, what if your brother did some horrible crimes and then people start harassing you because of something your brother did? You're justifiably so, you'd be like, what the f? I have nothing to do with this, but now I'm getting phone calls, I'm getting my shit blown up.
If I had a family member that was a and I had people blowing me up about it, would it annoy me? Yes. But is it worth my attention? Yes. I think the lives that are at stake are worth, people calling them about it.
So you feel like the ends justify the means?
In that same conversation, Mamamax shows they do not understand the concept of doxing. They do not understand the concept of harassment. Because if you direct your audience to go and target one person for any reason, it can be regarded as harassment. If you reveal the name of somebody who is not given their name, who is not involved in something, under the guise of, but I'm doing the right thing, you are still doxing an individual. In this case, Camden's mother, which was later conceded as a dox by Mamamax because they agreed that with a name you can find an address. It's why personal information has the word personal in it. One on the internet should choose whether they want to give that information willingly, and not simply have it taken from them to be displayed by others as a form of capturing a demon. He then finished by trying to play the bigger picture of, I think it's justifiable because of, won't someone please think of the children? Now that is a very guilt trip laden argument, and it's weak as well. There is no proof, none at all, that the mother has anything to do with what her son has been doing, allegedly been doing. Therefore, this white knight masquerade can only be seen as disingenuous and bullying. Where everything turns upside down for Mamamax is the accusation of being a PDF file laid at the feet of Magnetar, an accusation based allegedly on victim and testimony from his own sister. We know this because of a statement from Magnetar, who had said, in August 2022, as a way to deflect accusations against him from former friends and girlfriends, Max retaliated against me by labeling me that word. He said I was a predator with multiple victims based on nothing but anonymous, unverified messages from an alleged victim and testimony from his own sister. My life turned upside down. His accusation against me was viewed nearly 1 million times and led to thousands of people to flood my accounts, both YouTube and personal. As you can see, it led to some rather nasty fallout for him, friends, co-workers and fans. Because Mamamax weaponizes their very popularity. They finished by saying, funny enough, in this same stream that he made these claims, he was also absolutely obliterated by his audience and other content creators for a laundry list of things he had been effing up for years. The extent of his issues are still being dug through, but falsifying things in his content, lying and generally being untrustworthy and unhinged are just some ways we can now verifiably describe him. This led to more people digging into what Mamamax has been doing, and this is where people found where he had been lying. It is not helped by the fact that this entire campaign of awareness about Camden Gerard Davis has yet to even be shown. It's been going on since October and we've not even got a resolution. No proof, no nothing. Just bits here and there, some weird content. Odd videos with QR codes that link to DM messages between Mamamax and alleged victims. This is how poorly handled this is. It almost treats the entire situation, if it's real, as nothing more than a pantomime, a joke, where clowns in masks, putting on crappy deep voices, try and act as if this is the most important thing in the world, but prove nothing to give it any solidity, veracity, instead reducing this all to comedy, something supported by Muta, who was close to Mamamax in fact, and ended up getting threatened with legal action for calling Mamamax out for it. Now in the context of the timeline, that actually ended up leading to the apology video, which I've shown you some clips of. I'm going to show you some more of that now.
But you can't just tell your story anymore. Now you need concrete evidence. Now you need to go to law enforcement multiple times. Now you need to consult with lawyers. Like, we can't just listen to survivors when they're screaming for help. And that's why I've been taking all of these creative, experimental approaches to try to bolster their voice. Not only can they be heard, but they can be seen and they can be addressed. So, instead of addressing all the random rumors that people make up and responding to criticism, talking about the wrongdoings of other influencers, I'm just going to take accountability for my actions and correct them starting now.
Throughout this entire video, I alluded to the fact and outright stated Mamamax had deceived in some manner. And that is because of an interview with Nick Diorio in that video that I won't play, out of respect for Nick Diorio's video that you should watch, along with Muta's video as well. Released in conjunction, both very good. Mamamax admitted elements of the videos released over their time on YouTube are falsified in a kayfabe style for effect. The investigations are real though, it's the presentation style that isn't, which really doesn't help Mamamax in the slightest when it comes to one key word involved in investigations. It's another one beginning with I and ending with integrity. Quote, "I didn't think they would think my content is real." Bitch, you were calling YouTube out for defending PDFs. You were doing that. And what, you didn't think anyone believed your content was real? Millions believed you. Hundreds of thousands subscribed to you because they believed it. They didn't think you were some kind of WWE promo channel.
What's up?
Hi, Muta.
Hey, man. How's it going? I don't know everyone here but Max, but how's it all going? How's your guys' night? So you guys have been streaming for a bit?
Yes, sir. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
I'm good.
So last time we talked, Max, I thought you had a video about this coming out, a concise documentary.
A comprehensive timeline. We released a short saying that as things have evolved, it's taking longer. Like I told you, more survivors and witnesses are coming forward and joining. And that's what's causing the delay.
Thought it was like a legal notice or something. You guys are getting like legal and everything involved already, right? Like,
correct. We've already spoken with a lawyer. They suggested we don't even pursue him civilly just because if he doesn't have substantial assets, there's no point in a civil suit. So he recommended that we all go in person to file a police report, and that will make them take us the most seriously because we've tried phone calls and
phone calls to the law enforcement?
Yes.
We recently called Baldwin County Sheriff's Department, and I spoke to a sheriff's deputy and, you know, even asked for an email so I could send them what evidence we do have, and
they weren't interested in even looking at it.
He was like, oh, well, it didn't happen in our jurisdiction, so we can't do anything, even though he
resides in their jurisdiction.
Yeah.
I thought you guys had like the feds or something involved too. I don't know. It's been a minute since we've covered this whole thing, but this has been, like I heard a bit of the lyric stuff at the end of it, and you guys were discussing the whole concept of doxing and everything and all this stuff. And it was just like a matter of this whole story. It hasn't really properly been told yet to the mass public. You know what I mean?
Yes, we know.
Which like, and that's the big problem, right? It's like for people to come in here and like, the thing is, it's like you're accusing somebody of really serious situations, right? Like this guy of really serious crimes. And I know that you believe you're in the right. And from a personal perspective, I know that you feel you have the evidence and you feel like you know what you're doing is the right thing. But the thing about it is, like, if you want people to take this as seriously as you guys are taking it, you need to start providing that evidence to the public and provide like an actual story, you know? Like, I've seen the evidence that you posted, and obviously there's an NDA signed, so I can't publicly discuss this with anyone. But I can say, obviously, it contains one side of the events, and obviously, you know, my thing on screenshots is that unless I refresh something from a server myself, I never usually believe it or jump on the gun. Recently I covered scam situation where I had to pretty much dot my I's and cross my T's before I could even make the accusations, right? And obviously with a situation like this, look, I know that you know that there is something amiss here, right? Like with this Camden individual, I know you know, right? Like I know you from a personal level. I know that you believe this, and you're not doing this out of, I would say, malice. But I hope you understand that the way that this whole situation has been presented has actually hurt this case, unfortunately, because from the public perspective, it's like people have been sitting here for months now waiting for a definitive, not timeline, but like a definitive proof on this individual, and it's all just been a mess being presented. And I think it actually hurts the victims in the situation more than it actually is assisting them at this point. You know, last time we had a conversation weeks ago, me, you, and Nux, we had this discussion. It's like, you gotta not do the streams, you gotta bunker down, get this entire video out. And the moment you present this individual in the light that the moment you present the story in a way that everyone can follow, victims will just naturally pour in. You know, this isn't a situation where we got to sit down and wait for everyone to join together like a class action lawsuit. All this is doing is it's jumbling up the story, and it's making people question you, and it's ultimately hurting the entire victims at the end of the day, which I don't want to see happen. You don't want to see happen. This story needs to be presented properly, and that's it at the end of the day.
I'm going to do a follow-up video on Mamamax because more has come to light, and it really doesn't help Mamamax in the slightest. If anything, it makes the situation so much worse for Mamamax. Any legitimacy they have is being undone by their own shenanigans, their own unprofessionalism, under the guise of, but I'm doing it for the children. Won't someone please think of the children? There are no bad targets, but there are many bad tactics, and you are employing every bad tactic on targets that could be argued to be easy if you bother to use the legal methods available to you. You are the second creator I have called out in the past 12 months who has done crime-related content to call out injustice. But whereas you differ from the person from not providing any evidence to support your assertions, the other person did it and put it behind a paywall, pictures that should never be seen. If you know who I'm talking about, great. If you don't, the video is linked in the pinned comment with today's sources. If you didn't watch the first video I made last week, that's quite alright as well, it'll be linked down below. Essentially, Mamamax done goof and has admitted to having essentially sensationalized for clicks, all the while using rather odd editing styles, Saw-esque, Billy the Puppet, Tobin Bell voice-ish actions in videos as a call to action, in fact, to try and get massive YouTubers on their side, like they did in the past calling YouTube out, but this time to call out because of a particular individual that I had never heard of. And I'm not saying they're innocent by any stretch of the imagination, I know nothing of them, but I will presume innocence until proven guilty. And in doing so, admitted they're willing to dox, but it's not a dox, even though it is a dox. They have been willing to weaponize their audience and in turn weaponize other creators' audiences to get their message out there, because they believe in guilt before innocence, or because they have the information, but that's it. They haven't given us the information, they've not provided anything to verify any of their claims, so they are assertions. This is how messy, how mucked up this entire situation is. It is quite frankly embarrassing at this point. Mamamax has undone so much of what they can consider to be their own hard work through their own arrogance and pride, being so full of themselves and making really weird videos to get the message across, using QR codes with DMs to provide little tantalizing bits of information to make it more interactive as content, which I fully understand. A comment section usually does it well on its own. You don't really need to get people to then go get their phone out and have a look on the screen, because many people view this content on their phone in the first place. Since that video, the one I made last week, came out, more has come to light and I'm getting really irritated by it, because none of it makes them look remotely good. It almost makes it irredeemable, because I can't imagine how they're going to pull this one back. If you as a creator make a career out of calling out these kind of people, the kind that might, and I say might because we're not certain yet, you've yet to show the proof, be very inappropriate to a lot of people. Yes, I'm choosing these words carefully because of YouTube, but you, the creator calling it out, do not successfully manage to get anything done, you do not prove anything, and all you do is bleat on about how we all need to weaponize our audiences to deal with this problem, with nothing to confirm it. You are essentially a fraud, a grifter, a con artist. That is what you come across as. Teasing your audience for over 5 months with nothing to verify what you claim to be fact. Using podcasts that are very long. No one's going to watch a 4-hour podcast, by the way, talk about somebody they do not know anything about, no matter how big your audience is, to set up this massive documentary that's not even published. And then you go in on, for example, Moist Critical, because you called him out so many times in DMs on Discord servers and everywhere else to try and get him to help you. Because what's the point of having such a large audience if you're not willing to help a player out? This just comes across as somebody e-begging for views, for clicks, for clout and attention. Now, I can't imagine you make too much money from your videos in the first place. This kind of content typically gets demonetized. So it would be argued you do it to get additional patrons. But your patrons are hardly impressed because you haven't released much content and you still haven't released the video on the very person you've been calling out for 5 months. So perhaps after my little TED talk, and I do apologize for that, we should talk about what has been happening since, well, Friday.
I could literally cancel you, Charlie. I could literally cancel you. And I choose not to. It's true, though. It's the truth. Like, I'm the friggin' hunter.
It does not matter who you are on YouTube. It really doesn't. Because you, as a hunter of the PDF file variety, have accomplished nothing. So, if you're that kind of hunter, what are your credentials? Because you've not done anything of note to actually get anything done. Threatening to cancel, or saying you could cancel someone like Charlie, is laughable at this point. At best, you'd sow some seeds of doubt. It would be debunked in 5 minutes. A small amount, a modicum in fact, of critical thought will be applied, and even the court of public opinion, the casuals, will notice and go, oh, shut up. Your credibility is even more shot at that point, but we're not done. There's a part 2 to this.
I clicked this video because I thought he was talking about me. Are you okay? Are you sure?
Why do I do this to me?
Because I get it. Like, I get what I'm doing is creepy and obsessive. It is. But I promised them I would not let them down, and I will not.
I, as a individual, can fully understand, respect, and appreciate the importance of maintaining one's integrity. But what you have done in 5 months has accomplished nothing. You are now on the receiving end of a lot of criticism, as is Spencer, in fact, for how you are handling the situation under the guise of you are doing it for the victims, to try and get more of them to come forward, to speak up, be heard, so you can get them, use them, make your videos to deal with the vampire god cult guy, whose name is so memorable I've already forgotten it. Some ordinary gamer, Mutaha, had retweeted Vince Vintage, who had tweeted out those 2 videos you saw, by saying, my god, he's effing unhinged, that being a direct reference to Mamamax. Chris the Narc had tweeted out, Max is so effed, Nexpo has come forward, it's never been so over. Nexpo's statement on Max. I'd like to address something many of you may be wondering since we have so much audience overlap. There's a situation that's been unfolding lately regarding Mamamax and some very unethical practices he's been employing in his latest video subject. I'd like to on the record state that I fully disavow everything he's doing. The situation with him has admittedly been an absolute mess, and I've tried to give him advice on how to navigate through it properly, yet it's gone ignored at every turn. I've since cut ties with Max completely, someone who I thought I knew and once considered a friend. Unfortunately isn't who I thought he was at all, and it's effing heartbreaking, but it is what it is. I cannot stand by someone who acts the way he does, while handling such a delicate situation without any sense of tact. I'm quite frankly embarrassed I ever stood up for him in the past, and while I can't take that part back, I can at least move forward with this. To any of you affected by my friendship with and support of Max in the past, I sincerely apologize. I typically am better than this at vetting who I associate with. However, I feel like I've never really known Max at all. From Ryan. Jessica Pizzle had retweeted Peepaw Riverta, who had tweeted, was asked to post this since the author doesn't have Twitter Blue. So here you go to someone called Maggot Edits. Jessica Pizzle had retweeted by saying, no one should go to Slug and here is why.
0.
Credibility.
0.
Trustworthiness.
0.
Ethics. 4. Massive history of false allegations, which will ruin any credibility you may have if he is working with you. History of malicious doxing, history of malicious harassment. You can't trust your private information with him, as if you cross him, he will use it against you. The video is of Slug. Slug is basically, well, dunking on one person to try and get them to go to him instead. I highly recommend if you have had a crime committed against you, please don't go to creators. They will not help you. They might say they will, but really, they're only going to make their videos and that will raise awareness and totally be on your side and help you. No, helping you will be going to the police and having this done properly. Of course, if there is an international aspect legally, that is another river you need to cross with legal guidance, not with some YouTuber who clearly doesn't stand up for you. And no, I'm not going to play the video of Slug's audio. I just want you to see it on the screen that this is an individual who is pouncing on this to capitalize, as many would say, to take advantage of you, the potential victims. While we're on the subject of Slug, I did notice Nick Diorio tweeted out, Max's former editor is claiming that Max used AI to script his videos, which is actually a theory a number of people have had. Slug had posted, I am effing disgusted with Max being a brain-dead moron who mixes fact with fiction when he is criticised, he either uses the survivors as meat shields or he will say he is changing and never changes, and him claiming everything he makes is fiction annoyed me. Let's go with that. I worked on your effing videos and throughout our call, you wanted everything to be factual. You wanted me to disregard the fact that you used AI for your script. You defended it thinking it'll be the next best thing. Little bro, I even offered to write your script because the script was ass. Slug had also made a video, which I showed you bits of, with the person who had edited the video, indicating that Slug is not trustworthy. It is of course up to you as to whether or not they are a trustworthy source or not. Based on what I've seen so far, I don't think anyone's trustworthy at the moment. Smaggles BSC had tweeted, breaking. New messages have surfaced from the Mamamax Survivor Discord server, showing that Spencer and Max are conspiring to sue Muta just so more exposure can be put onto Camden, Camden being the vampire they are after. Here are on the screen images of those Discord messages. If you'd like to read it all, which is all quite cringe, pause the video and you will then be able to enjoy a rather pathetic, cringe-ass attempt at seeming like you're more important than you really are, or you can accomplish more than you really can accomplish by going after Muta, who called you out for your shenanigans. On the Mamamax fan club Reddit, it was pointed out that the GoFundMe that Mamamax had set up to deal with Camden had been nuked, and the top comment, after it being first backed with $9,777,000 by Mamamax himself, it was such a weird thing to add to this whole situation. The last archived screenshot of that is this image here, where yes, Max Striker had actually raised themselves nearly 10 grand by themselves. It clearly didn't resonate with anyone. I wonder why. This looks really dumb when you consider these kind of fundraisers only really benefit GoFundMe, who take a cut of the action. So Max is out of pocket a fair chunk of the money they put forward in the first place. No lie, the Discord server where the threats of lawsuit are against Muta, the server themselves are saying, please don't do this, Max, stop. Because you are not helping the victims. You believe, now in a form of benevolent virtue of your own design, that you hold the power to act on their behalf in their interest, when they, the survivors on your server apparently, and supporters of your work are telling you stop it. How full of yourself are you that you think you can go beyond your reach to do what should not be done? I mentioned the tactics, remember, being bad? This is further proof of it. Muta's not afraid of you, and nor is anyone else for that matter. I'll add to this that you are now going after channels that cover this. For example, whoever is in this server and leaking, you are literally putting our damn lives in danger just to boost your egos. We are not making this up for the love of God. No one is saying you're making anything up, just to be clear. Individual who I have now masked your face on as well. No one thinks that. What people are worried about is what Max is doing, weaponizing the internet to try and get this across the line, while giving us nothing to confirm anything, while also being proven now by those that have worked for you as nothing more than a loser, a liar, a grifter, a con artist. Max themselves sending to YouTube right now, also referencing Slug. My view will remain the same. Don't be a flagger. If you don't like what they say, perhaps don't be such a disingenuous hack, and don't think you can act on behalf of all the victims when they themselves in other DMs, when you threaten lawsuits for millions to raise awareness you can do this, have told you to stop. Now, since this has all happened, Mamamax has continued to hemorrhage subscribers. Because, shocker, so what has Mamamax done to help themselves? Well, they started by doing the internet boomer thing of privating, not deleting, their videos, covering Camden Gerard Davis, the vampire god cult guy. As we've covered some of that, and I still have the accountability video saved, as others have the links of it in fact, I don't think Mamamax realizes just how dumb a move this is, unless they intend to use this now as the publicity stunt that drew everyone in to then release the video to exonerate themselves. But the reality is, we've all seen the videos. and so nothing is exonerated. Nick Diorio has aptly described this entire situation by saying the Discord server leak has been catastrophic for Max. Those girls put their trust in Max and weren't ready to participate in content or reveal their names. Now those same people have been completely thrust into the spotlight, unceremoniously. It's actually really sad. Like, there are people who were previously anonymous, who seem against Spencer and Max pushing lawsuits, and some who whistle blew privately. Now because Max is a negligent jackass, they are getting crap for this. He's a really nasty, disgusting individual, and I couldn't agree more. How little do you actually care for the victims, under the guise of, but there are more victims, that you willingly throw some under the bus because you want the majority. It is remarkably selfish. It is negligent, and this is why this type of content is really bad on YouTube. It accomplished nothing. If anything, it just added more harm to what they've already endured, and they have suffered enough. Nick Diorio also published some DMs he had with Mamamax back on January the 8th to further cement the position that Nick holds. It's one I agree with, about not putting allegations out there or platforming those with allegations without hard evidence first. Because it is vitally important, if you're going to make an allegation, you have something to back it up. So I'm going to read that to you. From Mamamax. Hey Nick, I'm just catching wind of your newest stream. I'd like to formally request an opportunity to platform the survivors about their story and even their thoughts on the drama. I don't even have to participate, I just want their voices to be heard. Reply. I'm confused. Do you want me to bring them on? Mamamax. That is correct. Reply. Max, everything I say to you here will remain private because I'm not trying to make the situation any harder for you or inject myself into the actual content, but you need to get these girls help the internet can't provide. Find a journalist, get them a good lawyer, and set them up for success, please. I think you are wildly in over your head on something you haven't experienced before, and I don't want to contribute further to it. I've been watching everything publicly for 10 hours across 2 streams and my head is spinning trying to piece this together. I can't imagine how difficult this is behind the scenes if I chose to continue believing you have everyone's best interest at heart and this was a series of missteps. Mamamax. We have been actively contacting journalists and are consulting with multiple lawyers. The internet has been the sole source of assistance for them to date. Just to confirm, are you declining to provide a platform for these survivors? Reply. Yeah man, I am declining, and I'm moving on from this subject. You have my permission to tell people that. I wish them nothing but the best and I hope they find justice against those who wronged them. My platform is no place to have that discussion. I am an entertainer and not equipped to take that responsibility on. It's far outside of something I could handle and do a good job at. Also, by the way, I hope you personally take my frustration and complaints as a wake-up call about how effed this whole thing is, instead of just seeing me being loud and pissy as a direct attack. If your tactic as a YouTuber when you do not get your own way is to threaten other YouTubers for not getting your own way and having them help you promote something you have not given any concrete evidence to support, platform people that you claim are one thing but have nothing to be released in real time to support all allegations, you are nothing more than a glorified bully and grifter. Of course, it doesn't help when you put some of your videos behind a paywall. That doesn't help the allegation in the slightest of grifting now, does it? By using the threat of legal action against bigger YouTubers, you are using it as a way of promoting yourself and your content, not just to drive up the interest in the subject itself, which is being completely lost in favor of your crappy tactics, but you also show that you are willing to sink to a level many are not. There are rules many of us abide, and of course when we want to help people, we will do as much as we can, but there has to be a baseline of ethics, and you are willing to disregard those ethics for what you believe is the right thing. When you show you're willing to sink to that level to get the result, you show yourself as nothing more than the villain, because that's what typical villains do. I have a feeling more of this is going to unfold before the video is even released, with all the victims giving their side of events and all the evidence published, so do expect further updates in the future. Why? Because they're continuing to make mistakes. I'm going to preface this with the following. I don't think any of you watching this, hello, you lovely, lovely people, need to see the previous 2 videos I've done, but they will be linked in the pinned comment regardless. The reason why is because Mamamax has been trending enough on virtually every platform because their stupidity seems to know no bounds. If you are a YouTuber calling out those who commit crimes, but you accomplish nothing in the process, and the person you're calling out doesn't get arrested, charged, sentenced, or anything like that, you're a fraud. Although to be honest, the lack of involvement of law enforcement in these investigations, as they're rather charitably dubbed, is what makes them additionally laughable. when you try and big them up by going after somebody that may well have committed these very crimes, heinous crimes at that, by producing B-Tech Z-List-esque Tobin Bell-styled vocal work of John Kramer to try and drive home a terrifying point for the sake of ambience, for the sake of trying to drive additional clicks your way by using other creators as well with scare tactics of optics to force them into compliance. Chances are you are not as noble as you might think you are, or a good guy that you think you might well be. If in doing so, you harm those that are allegedly victims of the very person you are building up to call out, you are failing to handle a situation with optics in mind, and with any level of tact or sensitivity towards those who have been put through enough. Ever since the Nick Diorio video dropped, Mamamax has been trending on-off ever since. In fact, Mamamax was trending today on the 5th of February 2024 at time of recording, because Mamamax has decided to employ the low-hanging fruit tactic, which we will get to later as it involves a number of creators. And I'll be honest, this is the sort of thing I expect from the likes of Chantel, Foodie Beauty that is, Nada, those within Girl World who don't seem to grasp how to play the game. So we're going to continue the story for this video, as if you've already seen the previous two, and start with this. I think this is important personally. Muta has breached terms of the NDA, and his actions have caused cyberstalking and harassment, and this is dangerous. If he doesn't learn, what stops him from doing similar in the future in relation to other cases? I agree on waiting for Victoria though, just in case, but if it's plausible, Muta should be held accountable. His behaviour is disgusting. This is two separate things that need to be addressed at once. The first, the terms of an NDA are between you and that person. That does not, however, negate you from criticism. It is also a deflection to try and distract from the core problem. No one in the online space, apparently, is bound to an NDA. Therefore, we do not care about the NDA. We care about what is right and what is wrong. In this instance, there is very little grey area, very little, minimal, almost microscopic, like Mamamax's integrity. Tommy C did put out a video titled, "Is Spencer also involved in the Mamamax scam?" And this has led to much in the way of criticism aimed at Spencer. Spencer's been heavily involved in this investigation that Mamamax is currently doing on the vampire cult god guy. And somewhat unfortunately for Spencer, I don't think they realise just how damaging all of this is because of how poorly executed it was. There is no getting out of the harsh reality that comes with doing this. Years ago, it was called something ops. GHEY, yeah? That's what people called this kind of behaviour. These kind of behind the scenes going in on people investigation things, right? Collusion. If this was ever going to amount to something that could actually lead to a conviction, then this would have been handled less like a circus act or a pantomime or some kind of build up to a blockbuster movie and actually delivered on. I've seen others who go straight up to the person's house and call them out to their face with the evidence and then call the police. Show the police the evidence and leave it with them. And then you get others that do what Mamamax has done. The only thing missing from what Mamamax has done is him saying, "I want to play a game." Since this all went down with the threat of legal action against Muta, obviously Mamamax got trolled because, and I'll read one of the memes directly, "Getting the law involved for a child crime cult investigation, I sleep. Getting the law involved to sue Muta, real shit." But there's more, as you can see. My personal favourite though, Mamamax, what do I do now? Chat GPT, you're effed. Which is accurate really, because what on earth are you going to do about this? There are IMGA files with vast amounts of DMs leaked. They include messages of Vampire Cult Guy that I'm not going to show in this because I could get in trouble for that one, but I'll link it down below if you're interested. Now, because many people were calling out Mamamax, Mamamax tried to reach out to some creators to discuss this. Willie Mac was one of them, but there were many delays on their end, on Mamamax's end, so Willie Mac made a video. He had threatened to do it anyway, and 2 days after making the threat, he had in fact done that. By the way, when you're making 15 grand a month and you're still not managing to put so much as one of the people, the group of people you try and collect to put away, like Pokemon, but PDF Pokemon, away, something about this reeks of wrong, especially when you have such phenomenal support. If those who have decided since then to stop being his patron would like to support somebody else who actually does something for a living, you could follow literally any other creator. I'm not even joking, anyone else. On Mutahar's Some Ordinary Podcast YouTube channel, he discussed how Mamamax had continued to make the situation worse. First of all, by correctly pointing out that those consuming YouTube content are a little bit on the brain dead side because critical thinking doesn't seem to be a factor in many people's lives. This could equally apply to the likes of Mamamax, who didn't even think to collaborate with the correct people, whether that be those who do this kind of content, or to simply produce the content as time went by, as opposed to teasing it like a movie. Mamamax had updated their channel page to essentially only have For You and linking Auntie Spencer underneath. Videos are still there, but not all the videos. In fact, any of the more recent ones are in fact gone, because optics. And once deleted, it totally is gone from the internet, and I totally don't have some of these videos on my hard drive.
Max was in a type of content that was so easy to not, get screwed up in. His enemy was pedophiles, right?
I think that's why so many people were on his side for as long as they were. That's why I was on his side up until, all this shit came out. Because, he's going up against literally the worst people in the universe. And it's like, well, yeah, it's a pretty easy side to take.
Yeah, because it's at the end of the day, he was in a situation where if you criticized him, it was like, well, what are you doing? You're trying to defend a or something, and it's like, oh, okay, that's a good point. I guess I'll just stop all critical thinking.
This is where a concession had to be made why many did not call out Mamamax sooner. When you consider the genre of content Mamamax produced, many are unwilling to put their neck out, to criticize because we want to back you, we want to be on your side. You will find many that are victims supporting you because they want to see you succeed in your mission. In this, Mamamax's mission was always God's. Guard our daughters and sons. Apparently. When Nick Diorio made a follow-up video, Nick Diorio included a fact that Mamamax's Mega account had been suspended. This was important because there were links involved and sources. Mamamax, during a now 2-hour interview conversation, well, nearly 3 hour actually, with Nick Diorio and Muta, explained what that was about. I'll link that, by the way, down below, but I'm going to straight up rip it from Nick's video because he's got the correct part.
The Mega folder and why it was publicly available was evidence of predators. This includes them masturbating on camera while I am telling them I'm a 15-year-old girl. This was made available so that people could see that these videos, even if there are fictional elements, this part is real and this needs to be taken to law enforcement. If it was sent to law enforcement by Mega, then it is serving the purpose it was intended for.
That was debunked by Muta in a video titled The Aftermath of the Mamamax Situation, where they pointed out how the fingerprint ID on those images within those files on Mega work, and how appeals are very unlikely on that site. Mega also don't typically tell you why you've been yeeted, which undermines, contradicts everything Max seemed to talk about during this nearly 3 hour long conversation, which has since in its entirety by Nick Diorio been made public. It's brutal. At no point during any of it does Max look remotely redeemable. Clueless, many in the comments actually felt that Max might look like they possess an IQ below average because of not only how poorly they handled the situation, but how they handled this conversation with Muta and with Nick Diorio, which, by the way, all the credit in the world to both of them for this. Muta for dealing with one of the individuals who is an alleged victim to help them discreetly get the justice they deserve without putting them on blast, and Nick for calling this crap out when it first hit, when it was clearly apparent to be a grift. Shortly after the release of the entire interview, as it were, many were questioning the validity or veracity of claims made by Spencer throughout the entire call. This is going to be a prevailing problem for others who are going to be held to this lens where I had mentioned in previous videos a form of poisoning the well has taken place. This is the nature of the problem. When you are involved in the online space, rather than taking legal action when you are supposed to, dragging this out in video form, you are not helping any of the victims. It is why many creators, myself included, are very conflicted when it comes to this particular genre of content. It's why when I do crime content, I cover those that are resolved, not ongoing. Because ongoing is allegation, 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 and I'm not an investigator. I know my place and I know my limitations. I also know I don't want to harm the victims, the alleged victim, or the actual victim that may well be the one being accused. Just to insert disclaimer here though, no one thinks that vampire god cult guy is innocent. This situation has not helped in the slightest. What I want to do now is show a clip. It's an hour and 45 minutes into this 2 hour 42 minute video of theirs, interview, and it showed to me, because there was a lot of talking from Spencer up to this point, a lot of questions and answers, totally understood that. But this is Mamamax trying to employ some mental gymnastics to justify his actions, accusations and justifications for actions.
Boy, so you don't think that you could legally be held liable for the statements you're making if he were to sue you because you have someone who can come forward and tell you it happened?
Well, I am just documenting what she said.
No, you are calling him a pedophile.
Correct. And to be able to successfully sue me for defamation, he would have to prove that I am lying, which I am not, because the girl is real and she sent me those DMs.
Wait, which DMs did she send you?
Telling me what Anthony Field did at the end of Believe All the Brothers.
Okay.
So if Charlie can call Sneeko a pedophile because he said he's attracted to cuties, I think a testimony with multiple witnesses would be enough to call Anthony Field a pedophile.
The problem Mamamax has here, it's quite an annoying problem, is that Mamamax is trying to justify calling someone a word that can be argued to be defamation. If this went to a courtroom, if you were able to prove that they are a PDF file, that would be a separate problem, wouldn't it? But you haven't done anything really beyond throwing turds at somebody. Collecting all the information, having all these witnesses, all these victims, means nothing if you don't act on it. And you've had this information for a long time, and you've done sod all. Trying to use another creator is a false equivalence. It really is. I get your point, I really do, but it's weak tea and you should be above it, apparently.
So why is there no evidence that this happened if you're saying that this was done in I believe you said like your sister had seen this with her eyes. So like
this was a Snapchat that the girl did not save.
So it was open in front of a group of people then.
It was open at dinner at my house with my sister looking at it.
Can we get the ages specifically to this situation, I guess?
It was 14, but she looked 9. Like she's currently 20 something and she still looks 12. He was 18 or 19 at the time.
Okay.
And that's another thing, is the fact it's just everything. Like, how can you not see it?
This here opens up another problem, because you are referring to a different case, obviously, somebody else, and a situation concerning someone that was very young, but not saved, without any proof. Rather aggravatingly, you are asserting something, Max. Many eyewitnesses, yes, that really does lend some credence, but it can also then be used by the defense as the following. So they all just hate him and they want to lock him up. It's remarkably easy to dismiss something when you have no proof to it beyond anecdotal. You really need to be better at this. For somebody who claims to be a hunter of the PDF variety, I am somewhat disappointed in you on this one. But Nick does point out when you referenced Sneeko, this is not really a relevant comparison, and I want to play that before we finish.
I don't know why you're using Sneeko as a comparison.
No. I'm just saying when you see a specific... So let's say you're reached out to someone that you know, that you've known your entire life, and they're like, hey, this dude sent me a dick pic when I was 14. Can you say something about it? And you ask others about it, and they can verify that it did happen. Why would you not say something about it?
I think there's a difference between why wouldn't you say something about it in a social setting to other people in your area, saying, hey, this is pretty weird, you should probably stay away from that guy, and blasting it on your YouTube channel at the end of an abuse allegation response video. I think you know exactly what you were doing there.
It was pertinent to the video.
When I was watching the lyric stuff, anytime the Anthony Field situation came up, you said it was his behavior that's evidence enough.
The false equivalence is because simply saying one person is not the same as having evidence, actual evidence that can be shown at any time to confirm something. That's the point. The story of Mamamax's channel. I'm the authority, the arbiter of truth. I am the judge, jury, executioner. Listen to me, because apparently Mamamax is truth. I'm not surprised more and more people are unfollowing, unsubscribing, and no longer supporting the works of Mamamax. No doubt they will consider this the thinning of the herd, the necessity to get to the point where we finally see the proof. But I'll be honest, I doubt even if you provide the proof now, considering the damage you have done, it will lead to any positive outcome of the god vampire cult guy going to prison, which would entirely be on your own head. Of course, disclaimer, if true. Earlier on in this video, I mentioned a Goral world related connection. Tactics employed by Mamamax, allegedly, that in and of itself do not help Mamamax in the slightest. Lyrics, Muta, Nick Diorio, Xylee, and others were all hit with privacy complaints concerning any content talking about the subject matter of Mamamax being a grifter. Magnetar on YouTube has decided to set up a go-get funding to pursue legal action against Mamamax, hold him accountable, not just for what he did to Magnetar, but to others that he has harmed. A lengthy statement was also put out by Night Docs concerning their involvement with Mamamax as well. If you want to read this, pause it. It is, quite frankly, horrifying, and I agree with the assessment that Mamamax suffers from a form of megalomania. We would give it its actual name by current year standards, but there are a number of people within my audience that are quite sensitive to others diagnosing individuals with concerns. So we have to be a little bit careful. The last thing anyone needs is someone taking away the wrong point. But that will happen. There's always one. As a final point for this video, I should state, when you go into any subject matter, it is always right that you look at the source material for yourself and make up your own mind. It is fundamentally important.
This is going to sound a bit strange, and I do apologise. Turns out my feeling a bit funk, as it were, at the end of January was actually me being ill, but not noticing I was ill, but run down, which has compromised my voice. Now, I'm certain many of you are going to be worried and say, Meg, rest up, you'll be fine, take a few days off. I feel fine now. My voice, however, has yet to catch up. But I want to make this video because it is right to provide certain key updates to what we discussed on Monday. Before that though, later today on the Moistski Live channel, it will be linked in the pinned comment, is going to be a whiskey stream with friend Ave and I. So yes, the aforementioned compromised voice will be there, right? Okay, if you're interested in some discussion concerning delectable nectars of the whiskey variety, join us, we'd greatly appreciate it. I am, yes, going to have him and his nasally voice carry bloody stream. So today the focus will be two separate key instances that need to be discussed concerning Mamamax. One is somebody being a massive dickhead for reaction to test the system because bait, but that'll be the last thing we cover. The other is a statement that was shared by many creators that I think is very important. Firstly, courtesy of Nick Diorio. Max is desperate to keep the Patreon money coming in. I don't believe for a moment that he had plans to get a job. This is manipulation. Feel bad for me garbage. Do not fall for it. Striker Films on Patreon put out a post. Despite the recent defamation campaign, your support has been invaluable. Unfortunately, our operation here has been severely crippled, so I'm currently seeking local employment, but I remain committed to our film projects in my free time. So in his Tobin Bell rip-off John Kramer voice, do expect him to say, I want to play a game and would you like fries with that? Here are the current plans. We'll proceed with the documentary on Camden Gerard Davis, the vampire god cult guy, after law enforcement has concluded their investigation. An extremely detailed response video, Silence All Survivors, is in the works, revealing certain influencers' actions against us and the survivors we're supporting. Given the sheer volume of attacks, finalizing this project may take months. If there are specific concerns you want addressed, please mention them in the comments. Now, there are a number of problems with this paragraph or point alone. Firstly, silence all survivors. No one is silencing any of the victims of Camden Gerard Davis. We are saying you failed the survivors of Camden Gerard Davis. We are saying you turned it into a pantomime. You turned it into a Macy Day parade. You turned it into a showcase for your own amusement to test out new editing styles, to sensationalize like a crap journalist, or just as they're normally known, a journalist, for somebody that tried to make himself look like a wannabe tough guy, highlighting key, very important issues and claims against Camden Gerard Davis. No one wants to silence the survivors. We wanted it to go straight to law enforcement when the evidence was collected, or for you to put everything out there while working with law enforcement. One of the biggest problems I have with the kind of content you produce, and it's the same with many others in this genre, is that this is ongoing. As you yourself have said in the very first part, we will proceed with the documentary after law enforcement has concluded their investigation. Yet you have been teasing this for months, half a year in fact, which means you've already been blasting somebody with allegations. It is unprofessional because you want to listen and believe. We're not silencing the survivors. We want due process to be respected. It is vitally important for all discourse that be maintained. The sheer volume of attacks you reference in your second point, they're not attacks, it's criticisms. And you mention influencers' actions against you. Their actions against you were to highlight how crappy you've handled this. And it may take you months, but the reason you've highlighted that this project would take months is because you are waiting for it to all die down. Not for the police to finish their investigation, no. You are waiting for it to die down so you can drop the video when less people will be interested in the subject. Because right now, if you dropped any response video now, it would be universally panned. You are waiting because for some odd reason you now understand optics, which I think shows just how inept you actually are. You are making $15,000 a month on Patreon. I make like $200 a month on Patreon, okay? And I get by. You make 15 grand a month and you have to go and get a 9 to 5. But it's all the fault of the influencers criticizing you for your failings. It seems our detractors will continue to drown out our voices with more falsehoods and accusations until we give up, but the truth soon emerges over the horizon. Stay alert and open-minded until you finally see the other side of this story. Theoretically, I could engage in the same manipulative strategies, align with their adversaries, exploit every rumour and accusation ever made about them, orchestrate gossip among our peers to alienate them, and even platform their most ex-partners and past enemies. However, I refuse to engage in such tactics, choosing instead to present facts and let you judge them based on their own merits. Thank you again for believing in us. We will not be silenced. Now, there are many points here that need to be addressed. The detractors are not drowning out your voice. They're pointing out that every time you've had a chance to speak, you have chosen the worst possible voice to use and combination of words. The falsehoods and allegations, or accusations as you yourself reference them as, are accusations at your failings, not any of the victims, although there are some queries concerning Spencer, but that will happen in all walks of life. It is not trying to silence somebody, because everyone has given those voices 100% of the time. Take Nick Diorio's recent conversation that he uploaded the full conversation of. He didn't edit it. He put the whole thing there. Why? So everyone could hear everything Spencer and you had to say, and then how you fumbled quite a bit of your responses to Muta and Nick. You said theoretically you could engage with the same manipulative strategies. I assume you want to use some buzzwords here. Allow me to insert a few that you might be familiar with. Gaslighting, ad homs, strawmans, fallacies, perhaps an appeal to authority, which is a fallacy. You like to do that a lot, by the way. You also like to try and guilt shame people into acting, a tactic which, as you now know, is not acceptable. We do not, in the online space, consider that a worthwhile tactic to achieve a goal of dealing with those who would otherwise seek to harm children in any form. But you are harboring, acting under the delusion that the online space doesn't care about the children, or that because we don't talk about it enough, that is an indicator of our endorsement of the actions of people you claim to be dealing with in the form of Camden Gerard Davis. You mentioned the exploiting rumour and accusation. This is your way of saying, basically, anyone who's made a video commenting on this situation is exploiting rumour and accusation for monetary gain. It's YouTube. Much of the content in commentary gets demonetized. You know that. You're not so stupid as to think otherwise, but you think it anyway. The orchestrating gossip part, though, there's a point there, because it does tie in, consider it foreshadowing, to something else we'll get to soon. Now, you refuse to engage in such tactics, which is interesting to me, because while you may not in your mind engage in any of these tactics you call out others for, you use the same tactics when it suits you, and you've justified it in phone calls and interviews with Nick Diorio and Muta. You justified it as a means to an end, so that those that could be saved should be saved in your mind, which makes you look like you suffer from some kind of white savior complex. There's another complex involved in this. Oddly enough, it's the very acronym you like to use. If anyone's seen his Twitter, you'll know exactly which one that is. And if my voice wasn't compromised, I'd be doing some kind of church-like harmony, choir voice, you know? If you think this is bad, by the way, audio-wise, you should have seen me last night at Beast in Black, Gloryhammer and Brothers of Metal. I was trying to sing, I promise I was. It was cancer, but I had a great time anyway. Now, this whole thing is your way of pointing out that you cannot continue, so you are going to get a job. To be honest, I don't care how much you make on Patreon, I don't care how much you make on YouTube. I always believe you should have a job away from this. Even I do. I have been self-employed since 2014, 10 years nearly at this point. Something which I am very proud of. Full-time YouTuber since 2018, but I've still maintained all my work from before then as a cleaner. That seems a bit meh, who cares? But I think it's fundamentally important to have a steady income always. And my steady income ensures that my bills are paid. This is vitally important. If yours aren't, or if you are compromised even though you make more a year than I do, as a full-time creator obviously doing the haram thing of, what's it here you said? Exploiting every rumour and accusation. Yes, that's what I do for a living. I exploit rumour and accusation because commentary. Although at least when I do crime stuff it's resolved first. Sausage. You still make a phenomenal amount of money, and I don't know how you do so much and tank so hard. It is impressive to me that you could do that and fail so badly. On Twitter, Night Docs have posted your statement, and included some important points, right? And I want to show this. Highlighted currently seeking local employment. Reply, what could you possibly be qualified to do? Ever since you got yourself discharged from the military, what have you even done? And I'd love to be a fly on the wall when they ask you to explain the gap in your employment history. The survivors we're supporting highlighted next. Who do you even have left? Seriously, is there anyone besides Spencer? Theoretically, I could engage in these same manipulative strategies, align with the adversaries, exploit every rumor and accusation ever made about them, orchestrate group among our peers to alienate them, and even platform the most, that word, ex-partners. This one gets lengthy, but we're going to go through it. Theoretically, this could be a massive projection where you list the very specific things you did to me, and unlike the testimonies you claim are evidence, I not only qualify what I said as what I was told, and we have countless corroborations coming in. You may have lived rent-free in my house, but it's clear I'm living rent-free in your head, and the reason it scares you is because it should. You may be dangerous, but now only to people who give you the time of day, which is no one. Max, if you actually gave a damn about these survivors, you would recognize that even if you were right, your reputation is so tarnished, so much, that you can no longer be messenger. Take whatever dignity you have left and bow out as gracefully as you can. Others have already taken over, and the only reason you could have continued is to massage your insatiable ego. This is a reference to Muta directly stepping in to help one of the alleged victims of Vampire God Cult Guy, because you failed her. Continuing, how come you have 0 exes that you parted ways with amicably? What's more like, every single person you've ever dated, that word you, or that word flowed from a different direction? Please, find me an ex-girlfriend of yours who actually knew you and can speak positively for your character. I hope you have noticed the pattern in your life, that you stay in an area only until it reaches the point where people figure out your BS, so you skip town and start fresh somewhere else. Normal people just don't have enemies, Max. I have people I disagree with, but enemies? I know you think you're Batman, but you're just a scared little boy who literally wears lifts in his sneakers to make his ass look rounder. You antisocial cringe F. Also, while we wait for the months it will take for you to fabricate a response, rest assured there is an absolute nuke next to your face just waiting to detonate. She found us, Max. It's effing over. I'll bring marshmallows. Anyway, I'm hitting the beach. Just be glad your ChatGPT lawyer has a $0 retainer. Night Docs has given the most brutal response, and I love it. So to move on from that, we need to talk about Joshua Putman. I know this name, I've seen it everywhere. It's relevant to the last video, because the last video we at the end discussed privacy claims. This is the part where I offer a correction and retraction, because we now know for certain Mamamax did not file any privacy complaints. It was instead done by Joshua Putman, who admitted to being the one to file the complaints to multiple commentary YouTubers. He pretended to be Mamamax and sent them to YouTube to shitster as an experiment. Lyrics included all the screenshots, which showed a whole slew of privacy complaints being received. This was confirmed by Joshua Putman because of DMs with Lyrics, saying, "I just wanted to test YouTube's privacy complaint to see how bad it is. It's really bad in my conclusion because none of the times did they ask me for proof, and there was no option for proof. I only seen 2 people that know how this truly works. The first person was some guy named William, the other was the person that was the actual Joshua person. The only reason Joshua knows is because I filed privacy complaints towards videos people made about him when Joshua got his account hacked to make him look guilty while doing the same thing while knowing it won't get taken down. I see that's it oversteps boundaries." Reply, "Also, if you're not Joshua, do you mind telling me who you are?" Reply, "Yeah, I will," and some other conversation like that. So it's not really Joshua either. The Twitter account Joshua Putman did reply to Lyrics by saying, "I apologize for doing this, and there's some that I haven't hit with a privacy complaint yet. I noticed Doc on the radio talking about how he didn't get hit with a privacy complaint, so I decided to change that. I also saw Xylee talk to Chris the Narc about how C didn't. I assume that's what it meant. She did. Continuing get a privacy complaint, so I decided to file a complaint towards her videos about Mamamax." The Joshua Putman Twitter account put out a lengthy thread saying, "I filed 5 privacy complaints against Xylee, I filed 1 complaint against Ordinary Gamers, I filed 1 against Lyrics, 4 against Flatly Gaming, 1 against Moist Critical. I filed 1 against Some Ordinary Podcast," and essentially this continues with everyone who had been hit, and the videos linked to show just how far this went. And it is linked by them. Almost any creator that has done a video on the Mamamax situation got hit, and those that got hit hard. There are, of course, vitally important points and criticisms, valid ones, against the privacy complaint system. I received many from a YouTuber called Nada whenever I made content on them because they were desperate for the views. It didn't end with anything positive for them. If anything, it just gave me free content. And while we can certainly rail on the privacy complaint system for not really accomplishing anything, it is right to point out that this crappy behaviour has to be what it is, and called out as such. Crappy behaviour that effectively distracts from the main problem. The person who did this should be ashamed of themselves. I agree the problem of the privacy system needs to be addressed by YouTube 100%, but you gave Mamamax free ammunition to act as a deflection, which if they had an IQ over 2, they might have been able to do to some modicum of success. But mercifully, Mamamax does not possess the additional IQ point to be able to do it.
Many months later.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be directly responding to the return, triumphant no doubt, of Mamamax. I had seen some conversations here and there concerning close allies of Max, but in truth I don't know whether any of it is real or not, so we're only going to respond to the video and not discuss Spencer too much, as the speculation on Twitter made it very tricky for me to know whether it was real or not, and I don't know how to use Reddit either. I know a lot of it happened there as well. For the most part, Mamamax has been silent for a while, justifiably so because of the cock-ups that happened earlier in the year. I'll link the videos I've done on the subject if you're interested in watching. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to marketing yourself as a predator catcher, or hunter, you need to live up to the hype. So obsessively chasing after one vampire guy and not showing us anything in return that led to other creators making the videos you didn't make makes you look incredibly weak. Using guilt tactics to try and get bigger YouTubers to help you does not fly with anyone else, because that is how you rose to notoriety, infamy, and now for all the wrong reasons, because part of what you have been doing has poisoned the well for other creators that do call this kind of stuff out. Within crime content I will happily call a nonce out. I called out one that was my mother's friend from school that lived 2 doors down from me. I did it because it was the right thing to do, and I will not tolerate anyone that goes down that path. I really won't. So because he has made the return to YouTube in a shorter video, we're going to respond to that and see what he has to say about his time, what he's been up to, what he's going to do now. I can't imagine it'll be much of use to anyone.
I just want to talk. There's a lot I have to share with you over the next few uploads.
I don't suppose anywhere within this there's going to be an apology to the victims of the person you kept claiming you were going to do a video on for so long, who begged you to stop, who begged you to no longer engage and to not make the video you still haven't made. Because that apology is long overdue, and you did undo a lot of good work others had done for years in making sure their voices were heard on social media. When content creators on YouTube want to make videos in documentary style formats and be taken seriously by the casual viewer, you made sure to undo that. So is there a apology for them, perhaps?
It may be decades before the truth around this case comes to light.
It is often considered a form of lying when one takes a moment to look to the side. It's an eye movement thing. Also, and it was pointed out by one of my lovely mods, having your dog in the background is a very good way to guarantee a distraction when you have to share information. Now, you say this may take decades. I think there are a number of creators, was it Muta, that would beg to differ with you on it. Because it didn't take decades, did it? You just believe your version of reality and truth is so unique, so special, that would take decades. Because only you can be the one true authority and therefore present the story as it should be presented. Inflated sense of self-importance. And you apparently have a lot in common.
And the survivors will speak up when they are ready.
But they did speak, and they told you to stop. On this case, that is. They felt you'd undone much of the good that could have been done, and that they not only could not be heard as well as they wanted to be heard, but they were never going to be guaranteed justice, pursuing the path they were pursuing with you helping them.
But I would like to start uploading again. Now, you've probably heard a lot of different things about me. Distinguishing between what's real and what's not.
Now, this would certainly explain why I was tagged on Twitter so many times, and it is nice to see my thumbnails in your videos. No doubt you have watched them, or someone else on your behalf has, and you would undoubtedly not appreciate much of the commentary I provided when I felt you were nothing more than a fraud. A position I am going to stand behind, because you have to be to balls this up as magnificently as you did.
Is a challenge in the year 2024. And it's probably only going to get harder as time goes on.
Well, if we take the liberty of looking at how this video has been received, you have 46,000 views, you have 5.8k downvotes, you're doing a fundraiser that's raised $205 US, and the pinned comment, feel free to ask me anything, don't really, no, they're not on your side really, they're just asking inane questions just cause. Yeah. Although some have asked how did you manage to F this up so badly, and the answer's obvious. He got too full of himself. Simples.
Mass psychosis is very real, and I'm sure you all can pretty much feel it at this point. Now, people have taken my silence as an admission of guilt.
I hadn't. I took it as an admission of ineptitude, an admission of unprofessional behaviour, an admission that you didn't know what the hell you were doing, and that you were well over your own head, but you believed yourself higher because of a form of arrogance. So no. Guilt, no, because we all knew you were full of yourself, but you're welcome to believe that. You really are. It's a free country, right? Unless you live in my country, in which case, no, everything's taxed heavily and your speech is going to get you put in prison.
I was simply respecting the wishes of those I was advocating for. But I am not the monstrous villain that I've been caricaturized as.
Villain is a bit of a reach. Some would regard you as such because you failed them. I think incompetent is better, because villains do in some way achieve a form of success. The same cannot be said in good conscience for yourself. Therefore, if you're a villain, you're one of the side piece ones who fails at every task set to them by the main villain. But as the main villain is also you, according to you, the ineptitude apparently goes up levels and just stays with you. And apparently you don't have to earn the title of villain, you are just a villain.
I don't care. I don't care who says I'm doing this for money or clout.
Based on the fact you had complained about overheads, no one believed you were doing it for money. But equally based on the fact you were reaching out to some of the biggest creators on the platform and begging them to help you or they were bad people, clout would be an accurate summation, bitch.
I have lost that, and I'm still doing this work. Because it truly matters, because it is very important work.
I could agree that the work of hunting nonces is important work. Calling it out, making your documentary Saw-like videos, sure. But since there are people posting it to Twitter for free, I'm not entirely sure how important your work is. Based on the fact that the case you're now covering has been covered by others, and they've done reasonably well from it. I don't mean monetarily, I mean they've drawn the attention it needed to have drawn to it. I'm not as inclined to believe that your work, if you continue with that particular video, is worth it. That's not to say you can't add something to the eco-space of nonce hunting. It's the effectiveness of it. That's what matters.
We need to refocus our conversations.
You're looking to the side thing as though this was distracting. What do we have to refocus our conversations onto, though? Also, what do you hope to accomplish as a creator with a channel that is dying? I can't imagine you can do all that much. You removed so much content, you hid things that didn't need to be hidden. I'm very confused with what you believe can be accomplished here.
On future generations that are facing multiple global threats that we are all perpetuating. And there's so much work we have to do to help them.
You're not going to start advocating for Just Stop Oil, are you? Extinction Rebellion? How about Black Lives Matter? Which, wasn't there a lot of embezzlement with that? Just Stop Oil was just a bunch of middle-class white kids, all benefiting from their parents' wealth, and wealthy donors that came from oil companies, and Extinction Rebellion was just hypocrisy in form. I'm kind of curious here. What do you expect? Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to wait for the uploads, aren't I? I'm getting ahead of myself. You're teasing, and it aggravates because you're saying nothing at the same time.
So if you take away one thing from this channel, let it be this. Crimes against children remains one of the most devastating sources of injustice and suffering for humanity. That is a fact.
When it comes to the issues surrounding crime committed against children, I fully support helping them as much as humanly possible. Of course I do. Do I believe you could be a positive impact in that area? No, you bloody well can't. But you're welcome to try. This is, after all, an open platform for many to make their content, even if it comes from somebody as disingenuous as yourself, more interested in the presentation and theatrics and taking far too long to not actually produce anything than actually producing what can get something done, or potentially get something done. Standing up for the rights of children, standing up for vulnerable children especially, which is all children in reality, can be often regarded a noble cause. Insert Mamamax, that noble cause becomes corrupted, especially when you consider the last time Max claimed to stand up for victims, he failed massively.
So yes, absolutely call the police when you have been harmed or your children have been harmed. However, that is just the first step in a very long and difficult process that most victims give up on.
I always support going to the police. I never support going to a YouTuber. Following the legal process means you have a greater chance of, as the victim, getting justice. Social justice, of cancelling the person perhaps if they are a social media influencer, and there's certainly a rise of those on TikTok who have taken advantage of their audience, starting with the likes of Joe Robe, is not a good way to go about this. And I can understand wanting to reach out to others that can empathise. The police are not there to empathise, they are there to make sure you get justice. There are other teams that are there to help as well. We now know that YouTubers are not the best option as well to go to for the cancellation aspect of this, or perhaps pursue legal means when you present it to the police because of actions conducted in investigation form by the likes of Mamamax. The behind the scenes messages did not help you here, Max. None of it did, in fact.
And most children go without seeing justice. However, we can rebuild the infrastructural issues with law enforcement and legal processes to ensure more kids are getting restorative justice that they deserve. And hopefully one day we can prevent crimes from happening to children at all.
The only way you could ever truly prevent crime from happening, in any form, would be to have some kind of minority report, or Captain America the Winter Soldier styled weapons on a planet to highlight people who are perceived as a threat. Because of the vast cultural differences in many differing nations, it would be impossible to raise humanity up unless it was under one government for an entire planet. That government would be massive, and the control involved would be a dictatorship, a totalitarian theocracy. Oh wait, that's 40k. Of course, and I should state, things like this would be great to achieve, but not remotely realistic, especially from a YouTuber who lost all credibility.
That is my mission. Okay? Because justice is not freely given. It is something we must fight for. And that sucks, because a lot of kids can't fight. They don't even know where to begin. They probably don't even know that a crime is being committed against them, most times.
So would I be right to assume you're going to move on from the case you fluffed up and try and do something else then? Are you going to start doing IRL videos where you slap a nonce in a supermarket and chase them down the aisle saying this man's come here to meet a whatever aged child? Or are you going to do more of these over-the-top visual dramatics? Channels like this already exist and they do much better quality and have higher integrity.
Cyber crimes against children continues to rise at an unprecedented scale, and the psychological exploitation of technology will destroy us if we do not correct these patterns. That is my belief. Those who have a voice must speak for those who are voiceless. So with that said, I will see you soon.
Oh, your return's going to be terrible, isn't it? I have no doubt in my mind, given time and consistency, you could in fact affect some form of change on the platform. But, as Muta put it, you really did not learn a thing at all. You should have started this by talking about how you made a mistake. You got it wrong. You ignored the victims, you handled this poorly, and if the subreddit's to be believed with your friendships to others, you're a terrible human being. Do not use the exploitation of children as some form of moral high ground, which is another comment underneath that video of yours. All people asked for was more evidence and an apology, and you did no such thing. You do not regret what you did, and so you are unlikely to succeed going forward in impacting any positive change when it comes to the rise of those on social media taking advantage of those much younger. Best of luck though, right? Yeah? No. No, you're not getting that either.